Mario Naar.
Yeah,
Just
or
go
Mario Naar, yeah.
But look, give my audience an understanding of you, who you are, and how they might know you in Miami.
So I'm known as the Cheese Don. I own gourmet wine and cheese shops, focused on the fancier things in life. So caviar, cheese, foie gras, wine. We do a lot of events. We went viral a couple of years ago for our gourmet sandwiches. We also have a very famous Bass burnt cheesecake. So been working on the brand locally here for Miami for the last 4 years, and there's always that timeline between if you don't know if you're going to make it or not make it, especially in the restaurant industry. I think 8 out of every 10 restaurants do close. So we were able to finally pass that phase of testing our brand, and now we're coming in strong.
You're being serious though. Like that's a real statistic. Like usually like eight.
Oh yeah, 8 out of 10 restaurants close.
I did not know that.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I'd heard about this metric where restaurants for the first 2 or 3 years, you're automatically in the red.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't make a cent
Yeah.
for like that period.
Yeah,
of time.
it's a tough industry, especially with inflation, the competition. I mean, now, the rents got so crazy with the landlord. So you have to really understand kind of what you're doing. Also, your operating costs as well. You see these massive restaurants with, 80, 100 employees. That's a big overhead. It's a big, especially everything you have to pay for the rent and the produce. So yeah, you have to be careful and you have to know what you're doing. That's why it's difficult.
And listen, that's the crazy. That's where we're gonna start actually.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we've established that being a restaurateur, a chef, this is not for the weak, right?
No.
Why would somebody like you get into this, and how did you get into this? Let's go from the very beginning.
You have to have passion,
Okay.
first of all. You have to have passion for what you do. My father, when we were younger, used to travel a lot for work. So my mom would stay by her house, and she used to have all her friends over to basically entertain herself. And I was there at the house, so she was always doing all these events in my house, and I was helping her doing all the prepping and the catering. So without even knowing, I was kind of, open to that lifestyle when I was very young with my mom. And I really enjoyed the company of people. We're both like, they call us social butterflies. So we're these type of people that love to have people over and we love to entertain.
Yeah.
I ended up going to school in Boston. I lived in Madrid for a couple of years. When I came back, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. So I decided to go to culinary school. Hated being a chef. They actually made me work in a restaurant for 3 months. In order for you to graduate, you have to do like a 3-month externship at the restaurant. And I met my mentor, Italian guy. You'll probably see him on all my social videos. I just did a trip with him named Claudio, the fish guy. And I would always see him. He had me in the back, shucking oysters, smelling like fish, sweating. And he would come in with his slick back hair, drive up in his Porsche, sitting at the table with beautiful women. And I'm like, this is what I want to do. I don't want to be the guy shucking oysters. I want to be the guy in the front of house. So that kind of opened my whole entire panorama for, the restaurant industry. I ended up moving to Panama about 8 years ago. I went to go work for my dad. He had an international trading business, beauty cosmetics.
Interesting.
Based out of the free zone. He would sell to Latin America. Didn't necessarily love it. I was just a great salesman, so I was good at what I was doing. And when I was there, I was hosting a lot of people, doing a lot of events in my house. I had another friend approach me. He bought like an old building in the Casco Antiguo, which is kind of like the old town, like in San Juan. And he's like, hey, let's open up, a restaurant. And I was like, I had no idea about restaurants, but he knew that I had a passion and I was very social. I knew a lot of people. So we ended up opening up a restaurant concept called Salvaje, which crushed it, went international presence. I think it's now in 5 or 6 continents now. It has about 13 locations. Ended up, running the franchise for Wingstop. So the Wing franchise from Rick Ross. We ended up being the franchisees for Central America. And I had about 6 or 7 more restaurant concepts in Panama. During the interim, I ended up selling Salvaje. And this really famous cheesemonger contacted me. And he's like, let's open up a cheese shop. I'm like, what's a cheese shop? And he sent me some samples of the cheeses. And I was blown away with the quality. Salvaje was more of a party restaurant. So we had like the restaurant downstairs. And then upstairs, it would turn into a nightclub. And I was, kind of settling down. I had just gotten married. I wanted something that was not as wild as it was during the Salvaje time. And Chevre made sense because it attracted what I love, which is, educated people, really high quality products. In Salvaje, at the end, before I ended up selling, we kind of started losing focus on the quality of the food, and it became more of the party. because we were making a lot of money from the party. And for me, that was something that always bothered me because I feel that the food always had to be the most important thing. You couldn't lose that. Why couldn't you have both?
Yeah.
So we kind of lost focus. So I kind of stepped away from that, and I wanted to open up my own thing. And we were the first to open the first real cheese artisanal market in Central America. Pandemic hit 6 months later. So we basically didn't have any time to regroup. We had to survive during the pandemic. We started doing all these online cheese classes with the kids where people would get up on Zoom and everybody would start socializing. And I was born in Miami, so I always wanted to come back to Miami. You know, I became a very successful restaurateur in Panama, but I was like, if I can do it in Panama, why can't I do it in Miami? And it was a perfect time for me to kind of convince my wife because the government basically locked us down. You couldn't leave your house. You could leave like 3 times a week based on like the last 4 numbers of your driver's license number. So I was like, oh, hell no. And I saw all my friends in Miami like on boats and going to the beach. I'm like, my parents have an apartment in Miami. I'm going down. So I ended up coming down here. We wanted to open up something really big, kind of like a Casa Tua style, where it's like a massive market, kind of like an Italy, like in New York. It was that was my initial vision. But you know, I hadn't lived here for 8 years. I had no credit. I had no local business partners. So like, who is this guy? Yeah, you might be famous and well known in Panama, but nobody knows who the hell you are here. And one of the most interesting facts, I actually reached out to Dave Grutman, which is like a big hospitality guy here. He owns like Komodo, Live, and everything. And you know, he actually responded on social media, which most of these people don't. So I got to give him that. And when I pitched him, you know, the concept, he's like, I would never invest in the fucking cheese shop. I mean, he said it in a really cool way. He invited me over to his house. He was probably right at that time, but I was like, hell no, I believed in my concept, you know, and we had already started pre-promoting before we even came down here, and we had, you know, 15,000 followers. So I knew I had something. So we ended up, you know, after spending a lot of money, because we were here for basically a year without doing anything, and we were still, you know, going out to eat, going out to drink, like spending, like if we had full-time jobs, which we did it, you know, it was getting to the point where we were kind of like running out of cash flow. And my wife is like, Mario, stop with this stupid idea of opening up something so big. You know, we weren't able to secure the financing. It was just getting crazy. She's like, just open something up. So we ended up opening up our first location on Coral Way, and it was the best decision ever, because at the end of the day, I wanted to go from something so big with 80, 100 employees, and we ended up opening up a really small market. It allowed me time to learn, to know my brand, to grow, and obviously manage a smaller operation, which ended up being the key to what, you know, Chevrolet is today.
Correct me if I'm wrong. So it seems like at the genesis of all of this, social skills are needed. Like you're basically a really, really great networker. Like from
100%. I think that was the biggest challenge initially, because I had a massive network in Panama. But then you come here, you go from being, you know, one of the top guys in one country, and then here you're like nobody again. So you basically have to start from the ground zero. I had a lot of really cool people that helped me along the way, that kind of saw my drive and saw what I wanted to do. Rico con Kiko, I got to do a shout out to my boy. He's one of the biggest Miami food influencers that kind of took me under their wing. And, you know, we started hustling again from ground zero. And now here we are, you know, 4 years later, doing interviews.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I was like thinking about that, like, because I told you I'm reaching out to people the same way, but you seem like you were really eager to just take your shot.
100%.
Especially with this new era we're in with social media. You were DMing people. You're like, hey.
100%. I met my business partner online through Instagram.
Seriously?
I saw he was because I knew I needed a local partner, because again, you come, you don't have credit, you're new to the country, even though I'm an American citizen. But I came back and, you know, I had basically no track record. And I messaged him because I saw he was following me, and he owned a big hospitality company here. And he's like, let's go. He's like, when are you gonna open? When are you gonna open? I'm like, I don't know yet, but, you know, I'm interested in looking for, you know, some local partners, you know, to kind of help me, you know, build what I want to do. We ended up going to the Setai. We had lunch, and I think like, you know, 6 or 7 cocktails, and we basically, you know, had a handshake agreement, and we struck the deal there. And he's my partner to this day. So
that's how it started.
That's how it started.
That's interesting how much social media has influenced business now, even in that regard, you know? Because, I mean, back then, you think your father would ever got on a different platform?
No, I mean,
it's crazy, right?
Even, you know, with our caviar company, I mean, I reach out to people that I don't even know, and to chefs. I mean, you got to hustle. And like you said, some people will respond, but, you know, once in a while, somebody like me will respond, you know?
Exactly.
And you got to keep shooting your shot at the end of the day, you know? I think you have to give you can't give everybody the opportunity because
Right.
maybe it's not because you want to or don't want to. You don't have the time to do it.
True.
You know, but right now it's summer, it's slow season, you know, and I had the time to do the interview. I saw, you know, your reels and your content. I thought it was cool, you know. So at the end of the day, you see my slogan on my personal social page, content isn't king, it's the kingdom. So nothing can ever be wrong. There's no such thing as bad publicity, right? Just get your
Exactly.
name and your brand out there.
Yeah.
You never know when the next video is gonna hit and go viral.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, I'll tell the audience this as well. But you know, I stalked your Chevrolet content, and it's always something new that I'm like, oh man, this is crazy. Like and then I asked you, I'm like, hey, your team, like, who are they? You're like, no, it's all me. Like, you're literally at the ground floor still. Here you are.
Yeah.
You have all these restaurants now. You were still doing the mundane tasks.
I've tried to hire marketing companies and I end up firing them. Not because they're good or they're bad. It's just that they manage so many other customers and clients. They tell you, okay, we're gonna do only 3 posts a week, and that's not me. I see something, I want to post it, I do it immediately. So I have a group now that kind of helps me with, you know, the back end and sending out emails and stuff like that. But the content is something that, you know, you see it in that moment, and then you get busy with other stuff. So you can't really plan things anymore. I think, you know, it's so chaotic, especially when you have several businesses like I do right now. It's just, you know, shoot it when you got the time. Shoot it in that moment. So hopefully one day we figure it out. But in the meantime, yeah, it's a...
Do you think restaurants can survive without social media now?
No.
Like,
no way.
It's not even a thing.
It's not even a thing anymore. There's some that, you know, you get these chefs that think that, you know, they don't really need to do it, and maybe like 1 out of 1,000 will probably survive. But no, you need to have a team. And the cool thing about us is that there's not really a chef in our restaurant. So we don't really depend on a third party. It's basically my ideas, and then I work with other great, you know, entrepreneurs, you know, like bakers and different types of chefs that come in and do like some consulting for us as well. I have a vision of what I want, and then, you know, they kind of help me execute. And I think that's kind of been, you know, the key to our success, because we're not only always depending on the same person to come up with the same recipes. Like we consult with a lot of different people.